All right, so let's discuss the headset issue. So this bike is an early. Try to put that down. This bike is an early '90s vintage mountain bike, and the headset is basically the set of bearings that allows your fork to turn, and you're going to have your handlebars attached to it, which allow you to then steer the vehicle. Right? That's the whole idea. So there's a bearing cup in the bottom, a bearing cup in the top, and the fork is right here, and the fork has a steerer tube that goes up into the head tube. The head tube is just this tube of the frame itself, and in an older school threaded steerer tube, what you have is a little bit of threading on the top, and there's a double threaded there's a small lock nut here that actually applies you thread that down onto the headset bearing, and what that does is it compresses it just enough so you get a nice smooth turning fork without there being too much pressure on the bearings, which are actually just metal ball bearings, and you have them greased up inside of a little bearing cage. And I'll show you that when I disassemble it. And then the second part that locks it down is this top lock nut, which is the real one that holds it in place. So then once you have the right tension on the bearing, you then hold that one in place with a wrench, a cone wrench, and then you lock this one down real tight. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. It's old school. That's in comparison. Oh, by the way, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to put this special piece called a Quill stem adapter. This piece here looks exactly like an old school Quill stem would have looked like. Meaning, Quill stem means it has this part goes into the threaded fork apparatus, just like so, but it would have had the stem attached to this as one piece, and then you would have put on the handlebars attached to that stem. This is a Quill stem adapter, which allows me to go from the Quill stem threaded fork apparatus, but it also has this thicker 1 1/8 inch attachment part on the top, which allows me to apply a modern handlebar and stem. So the stem on modern bikes is a separate piece, and what that will be able to do is that will slide right in, and I'll be able to torque that down, and then this, basically, when it's all done, will fit together something like so. Like that, and then I will have essentially my road bars on a mountain bike, and it will have been able to reuse the original headset, which is pretty cool because I've already taken this apart once and cleaned it out to make sure it was in good shape. The headset was in really good shape, so I don't have to change anything. But this bike is cool because it's future-proofed slightly. because it's an early 90s, this has what they called then an oversized head tube, which means it actually has a 1 1/8 inch excuse me, internal diameter, which means that in truth I can put a modern fork, 1 1/8 inch fork. Eventually, if I wanted to, I could swap this steel fork out for like a carbon fiber fork or something like that, lighter, maybe a little bit more stiff in the front end, and with a modernized threadless headset. Just like, but this would fit inside of the head tube. Not this fork. I would never use this. This is a road fork, but you understand you get the drift. This was just to show you an example, because this is how the modern system works. All you do is you put that through there. The stem goes through, and then instead of having the threading on the outside, this is called threadless. There's no threading here. Instead of having the locking threads on the outside nut, all you're attaching on a modern system is a little locking top cap bolt that goes into that little, it's called a star-fangled nut. It's this little nut that you basically crush into the fork, and then you tie into that. So it's the same thing, it's just the threading, and the modern one is on the inside, and on the old school one, the threading is on the outside. So it's a little bit complicated to go between the two, but now I'm going to show you the disassembly of the, I'll put these things down. I'm going to show you the disassembly of the headset, piece by piece, and then I'm going to re-grease it, pack the bearings with grease, and get it all tightened up so it's really nice and sound.